Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you joining us today for the Ignite Talk Phase 2. We are thrilled to have you here for a session that's truly relevant in today's digital world: personal branding and how to use social media professionally. Whether you are a job seeker, student, or a professional looking to level up your online presence, that matters more than ever. And tonight's session will show you exactly how to take control of it. This is part of our ongoing 9-week journey through Ignite Talk Phase 2, a program tailored to empower youth in Sri Lanka and beyond with the tools they need to be career ready. Let me quickly remind you a few things. You need to attend at least 80% of the session to receive your certificate of participation. Zoom links are shared in the each sessions in the WhatsApp group. And at the end of today's session, we'll be taking a quick group photo, so stick around till the end. So, why talk about personal branding? Here's the truth. In today's world, your online presence is your new business card. It's where employers, collaborators, and clients often meet you for the first time before any interview, any call, or any handshake. But the challenge is how do you show up online authentically but strategically? How do you build your profile that speaks to you and who you are and what you are capable of without overthinking every post? That's exactly what we'll be diving into today. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Whitney Curtin. Mr. Whitney is a operational strategist, PR specialist, and a corporate trainer with deep experience in helping people and organizations unlock their potential. He has worked with professionals across industries to build strong, consistent, and strategic personal brands, especially through social media. His insights are not just theoretical, they are grounded in experience, real world strategy, and a deep understanding of digital culture. So get your notebooks ready and let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Whitney Colton. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Zumaira, for that lovely briefing and introduction. So, very good evening to all of you. So, I will actually talk about personal branding today. So, exactly before I share my screen to you guys, you all can just type it on the chat or you can share it over, you all can voice it out. Just an idea about personal branding. What do you think about branding? What is your idea before we go for the session? Just 2 minutes for that.
There's something which is standardized, means which quality is high.
Okay, quality is high. Good. So that is also a good answer, right? So any other ideas about what is personal branding? You can see my screen?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Super. So any idea? Just go through this and just let me know what is personal branding. What do you think about personal branding? There are two phrases here. Personal, you can take it as a person. Branding is you can take it as anything related to goods or maybe you're even a brand, right? So basic idea is about you, right? So we are going to talk about you today. So I'll just guide you all through this, right? So basically, personal branding means it's your name or you call it, right? So we are going to talk about what is personal branding, then elements of personal branding, building confidence with 5 A's, right? Then going to talk about pillars of personal branding, and I will give you about 5 to 10 minutes of questions and answer time. So you are free to ask questions about the session and some doubts about what you all have about the session that you all learned today. So it's actually this session is going to be a session of confidence building strategies, right? So basically, like Zumaira explained, we are going to see how you're going to apply this in your life, and we are going to see how well you can, develop yourself into a personal brand. So basically, as I told you, you are a brand, right? So as an individual, you take it as you are a brand, right? We all use branded things, right? Maybe your clothes, your shoes, right? Your bags, your pens, your phones, right? If I name it, everything that is on you, right? Or maybe what you're using is a brand, right? The vehicle you travel, or maybe the watch you wear, right? Everything has to do with a brand. But personal means it's how you groom yourself to become a great brand in the future, right? How you determine yourself. So, what is personal branding, right? So, basically, like what I got an answer saying, it's about a thing that has value, right? Correct. So, driving through this particular session today, we are going to see what is personal branding. So, as you can see the presentation slide here, personal branding is the process of developing a mark, right? That is created around your name or career. You use this mark to express, communicate your skills, personality, and values, right? So you can see here the process of developing a mark. So you are actually a mark, right? Sometimes you're known for your name, sometimes you're known for your career growth, right? Your specialty. Sometimes the mark is used to express and communicate of who you are, right? For example, we can take someone out here from the group. Suppose you say that you have some specific mark, that means your capability or capacity, right? So something that you can drive your skill, right? Maybe your communication style or your way of expression or the way you speak to people or the way you work with people, or sometimes it's your personality, right? Sometimes how you deal with people and the values that you create. Sometimes you talk to people in a nice way, sometimes you add value to what you say, right? So this is what drives your personal branding. It's related to your name, your career, or maybe the way you communicate, your skills, right? So now we are going to see how you can use these particular skills into developing a personal brand. So the next slide is about elements of personal branding, right? So as I told you before, right? Whatever you wear, or maybe the bag you carry, or the pen you use, sometimes your food that you eat, right? Everything has a brand, right? The product, or maybe anything, you name it, right? Sometimes you prefer using iPhone, right? Because of the brand, right? Sometimes you prefer using Samsung. That is what? It's a brand, right? But people don't talk about you. They talk about the brand that you use, right? If you want people to remember you, you want people to talk about you, get to know you, you have to be a brand, right? You have to be special in between all of them, right? You have to be a standout person. That is what we are going to learn today, how we are going to do that, right? So, elements of personal branding. So, the elements, right? Simply, I will give you all three areas, right? One is your physical appearance, right? So, basically, if you are to build yourself, right, you have to look good, right? It doesn't mean that you have to, go to a gym or, do a workout, all those things. No, it's how you dress, right? How you impress. Your first impression matters, whether you face an interview or whether you go for a presentation or whether you walk into a office, right? A workplace, the first impression is your physical appearance. How you dress and what you dress is what captures you out of the first basic element, right? So the first thing is your physical appearance. It doesn't have, like I say, you don't have to be fair or dark, or it doesn't mean the color, right? Irrelevant to anything. You have to, put yourself, and your presence should add value, right? That is what makes you stand out. And it's not only about what you dress, right? Sometimes, for a good example, right? So today you guys know that there is a session like this, right? And I can see some of you guys who have switched on your cameras, you all look okay, right? You all have got prepared for it. You know what to wear. You know how to present yourself over this session, right? So basically, that is what matters. You know how to be at a particular forum, right? It's how you appear. And the second thing, it's not only about how you dress, the second thing is your skills and your abilities, right? You have to work towards it. If you're good in your speaking, your verbal or your writing skills, you have to develop and grow, right? That is where you stand out. Sometimes your vocabulary is really, really good, right? Sometimes your writing skill is awesome. Sometimes the way you pronounce words, sometimes your accent, your pronunciation, it's awesome, right? And the ability to communicate, the ability to network, the ability to, get to know people, the ability to present yourself, that is what it comes under area of knowledge. You have to learn, you have to study, you have to be an expert, right? You have to put your groundwork, you have to do your homework, you need to know what to do, right? So today, as I got prepared, I mean, when I was preparing these slides, these are the things that I also have to practice, right? The area of knowledge, the skill and the ability, right? How I present and how what I tell you all. So basically, that is what you guys have to put yourself in, right? So the third element is the communication style, the behavior, what you're going to use, right? It may be an email, it may be a presentation, it may be a letter, it may be a note, a memo, you name it, right? You can put it on social media, you can put it over a telephone call, a SMS, maybe a WhatsApp, but you need to know what kind of a message you're going to share, the style, right? What you're going to get through and how you communicate. If you are going to build your brand, if you're going to be your personal brand, right, you have to be able to practice all these three areas, right? You should know your physical appearance, what you should wear, and where you should wear what, and the area of knowledge, the skills, and the ability that will take you there. And you need to level up, right? Sometimes say you are good in maybe marketing, or maybe good in communication, maybe good in talking to people, you're good in networking. So you need to build that skill. You should know how to develop that skill more and more, like whom to contact, where you should reach out, and how you could build a network, and what is your next step, right? So sometimes you're good in your PR, right? Public relations, right? So you need to know what should I do to build that in future, right? Whom should I talk to, right? And what area should I, learn for it? There are certain programs that will give you the boost and the knowledge to learn skills, right? Sometimes some people are good in teaching, right? So you all should know how to get that done. Some are good in lecturing, some are good in, preparing notes, their writing skills. So there are certain areas that you all can develop. And sometimes your communication style, sometimes the way that you draft emails, sometimes you all can learn new ways of drafting emails, new words, and new ways of structuring your email. So that is a communication style. Sometimes you can use images, you can use pictures, right? Sometimes you can use short videos to communicate with people, right? So those are the basic things that you will have to, adapt in the communication style, which comes under behavior, right? The pattern that you use to communicate, right? So remember, these three areas play a very major role in the elements of personal branding. So you have to remember your physical appearance, and then you have to remember the area of knowledge, and you have to remember communication style. So in under physical appearance, you have to remember grooming is very important, right? So that is the main uh, component under physical appearance, right? It doesn't mean to say how you dress, but grooming, right? You have to be prepared for any situation. That is where you make the person who is going to be the standout person, right? You be prepared, you're ready to face anything, right? You should know the area, you should know the background, you should do your own research. That is where you stand out, right? So going to the next area, you're going to see the three pillars of personal branding, right? So you should see what are the three pillars of personal branding, right? So give me a minute, I will just show you. Uh, Hold a second. Right, sorry. So we go up for the three pillars of personal branding. So first thing is personal qualifications. So under these personal qualifications, we are covering your skills, your competencies, experience, and expertise, right? You should understand the difference between skills and competencies, right? Skills are what come from you, right? That means the way you speak, the way you network with people, your writing skill, your verbal skill, right? Your presentation skill. So those things come under skill, your personal qualification, right? So maybe you have your bachelor's degree, you're okay to go with your master's, right? And the next thing is competencies. You have to develop these skills into competencies. That means areas of expertise, right? You have to build that, you have to practice that, right? So if you are going to be a good speaker, you have to understand that you have to build your skill, right? You have to build your language skill, you have to build your word skill, you have to learn your timing skill, right? For an example. And if you're going to see about your competencies, you are going to see what area I should, be an expert in, right? So sometimes you may be joining, you can join a Toastmasters group. Sometimes you can, be a good social media specialist. Sometimes you can become an advertising specialist. Sometimes you can be a content creating specialist. So these things all come based on your skills. So your competencies come as where you identify your skill. So sometimes you will identify, as what I told you, your area, which one is good for you. And that is where you practice and that is where you gain experience. And once you gain experience, you are an expert, right? So there are areas that you can practice. Sometimes you will become a social media expert. That means a specialist. Sometimes you are a good content creating specialist. Sometimes you are good in your vocabulary, whereas you will become a good speaker, right? Whereas you will help people, help individuals to speak up, right? So that is where you build up and you practice your competencies, right? So like what I told you, since you guys are graduates and for going to do your maybe your higher studies, that is where you build up your competencies. That is where from your school you studied, you grow your skill, then you apply that into competencies, then you knew your area of expert, and you built your experience by working or maybe practicing that particular skill and competency, and now you are an expert, right? Not only that, once you know that you have gained your skill, you have matured to your competency level, then you have gained your experience, you have become an expert, then you should know which people that you're going to link with, right? You should know the people that you're going to move on with, and you should know the group that you're going to work with. That is where the second option comes as the people, right? You should know the specific target groups that you're going to move with, and you should know whom you're going to target, and you should know your audience and the people who are following you, right? You have to set a role, you have to be the role model. You should set that road and you should be the guideline and you should be the guidance provider, right? So you should know the people, whereas you should target the people. Suppose you say you are going to be a social media specialist, you should know who is your target group. Are they going to follow WhatsApp? Are they going to follow YouTube? Are they going to be the followers on Facebook or maybe on LinkedIn, maybe on X, right? You should know your specific target groups and you should know the audience, whether it's going to be the youth or maybe it's going to be the people who are in between the age of 30 to 40, or maybe it's going to be from 35 to 45, maybe it's going to be the elders. You should know which group you're going to target and whom you're going to involve in your project or the team that you're going to work with. And you should know who are the people who are following you. It all depends on how you create yourself and how you present yourself. As I told you before, your first impression, right? And how you practice that is what matters, right? And how these things can be applied is the third point is differentiation, right? It's how you differentiate your unique points, like how you are going to tell that what makes you stand out from all these competitors or maybe your own group, right? Or maybe the trend that you're following. Maybe you're going to be you know um, a person who is good in making handcrafts, right? So you should know what is your uniqueness, right? Your unique point in making yourself different, right? And that is what makes you stand out from all these things, right? The things you make, the things that make you different from others in your field. Sometimes you're the not on, you're not the only person who is in this field, right? So you will be the person who has to stand out. You should know what you do, to attract people. That is your turning point, right? So your unique, you should understand based on your skills and competencies, you should understand your unique points as well, right? If you are good in your skill, you can, start your own blog. You can start what you're going to do. You can just put out tips saying that how to prepare, how to present yourself. Just 5 points, how you're going to present yourself. What are you going to make out of it, right? What are the basic points you're going to do when you're going to present yourself? How you're going to introduce yourself? And what are the main things that you're going to talk about yourself, right? So you practice that. You give them tips. After a week, you just check how many followers you have. Or maybe you just put 2 or 3 posts for a day, or maybe 2 or 3 posts for a week just to start off, right? So that makes you unique. Sometimes people just start talking about, yeah, right, okay, this guy give me tips like this. Have you followed this guy? Look at him, the way he dress, like the way he talks, the way this particular lady talks. Maybe this guy talks about this, he talks about this uniqueness. Those are your key points, right? What makes you stand out and what makes you identify yourself based on your key competencies, right? So before coming to this, I'll just tell you about the 5 A's, right? So I spoke to you about 3 pillars of personal branding. So I'm going to tell you about the 5 A's. One is authenticity, right? You have to have authenticity. What do you mean by authenticity? Can anybody just tell me what is authenticity? Any idea what is authenticity?
Dear sir, it's mean valid.
Sorry, you're not clear.
It's mean as validity, something
I
which is
mean,
valid.
Yes, correct.
uh, like
Authenticity, correct.
original.
So I'll just put it on the group, right? Correct. So validity, correct. I agree with you, Ali. Yes, thank you, Ali. So the first key point is authenticity, right? You need to practice this, right? You have to have, right? You have to have validity in what you present, right? In what you say, or maybe in what your ideas, your thoughts, or whatever you name it, right? You have to have authenticity on yourself, right? You have to be a valid person. That means you have to speak the truth, give true facts, and you have to be unique in what you share. Maybe an artwork, a poster, or whatever you name it, you have to be having a valid information on it, right? So that is one out of the 5 A, right? So the second thing is, like what spoke to you about people over here, it's the audience, right? So audience is very specific, right? You have to be very specific because you can't cater to everyone, right? If you are going to be specific or specialize in some area, right? You name it, maybe your sports field, or maybe your education, or maybe you're good in drawing, you're maybe good in handcrafts, you're maybe a person who is good in making recipes, right? Maybe a person who is good in baking cakes. Yes, you name it, right? You have to be valid in the facts that you give, right? And the second thing is your audience. You should know whom you're going to target. You can't give cake to everyone, right? You can't give, I mean, recipes to everyone, but there are certain groups that are going to learn from you, right? Some people do side businesses just because their part-time businesses is on cake baking, right? Sometimes people write articles. Sometimes they do short artworks, posts, right? Posters, marketing, right? Advertising. So these things you have to know your audience, right? And the other thing is number three is um number three is about authority, right? You should know your authority. That means you should have practice on what you do. Okay. So it's basically one is authenticity, second one is audience, third one is authority, right? You have to manage this, right? You can't share this with anyone. Am I right or wrong? Agree? Yes or no? I can
Yes.
see Diniti heading and yeah, nodding your head. Yes, right? Correct. You can't go and share this. You can't go and share ideas, and you can't say, yes, come, let's share and do this. No, you have to be 100% authorized to have that authorization just on your idea. You can't just go and say, no, I'm just going to give it to you, you do it. No, you have to own it, right? You have to own it. If you don't own it, somebody else will copy that, right? So you have to be your owner of what you share, right? So you have to have authority in what you share and what you speak and what you give the others, right? You can't give false or fake things out because that is where it determines what is your personal brand, right? If you give one small thing wrong, then they will say, no, no, this guy is giving all wrong answers, right? This guy is giving all wrong ideas, right? For an example, say now you give out a recipe, right? And you mix too much of salt in that, right? Where it doesn't want too much of salt. What happens? Whereas they have others who are on their followers list. They know they are doing the right thing. But when you have something unique in that, you add a lot of salt in that, you're going to mess up your entire recipe, right? People are not going to follow you. They will just say, no, don't follow this guy. Let's go follow this person, right? Because I'm telling you, your brand is what makes you stand out from everyone, right? You have to be unique. You have to be honest in what you share, and you have to be smart in what you do, right? So that is number three, right? Authority. Then the other one is association, right? Association. Association means the people whom you move with, right? And you don't go and tell everyone what you're going to do, right? You have to make sure you make your circle as small as you can, but make it a circle which is very smart. Whereas people will give you ideas where you can grow, where you can link up, and whereas you can get to know each other and where you can build your network, right? As a brand, as a person, where you can focus and how you can grow yourself. That is where it matters under association, right? You don't go and tell everything to everyone, right? You have to make sure you build that trust with everyone, right? You have to have a smarter associated network, right? So that doesn't mean that you have to add everyone into your account. No, you have to make sure whom you add into your account, whom you follow, but make sure you don't give your visibility to everyone, right? Sometimes you allow everyone, your profile or maybe whatever you create, your Instagram page or whatever it is, you just allow everyone to come into your page. No, you have to know whom you're going to reach out, right? You have to know what content you're going to share. You should know what it will become, and you should know the impact, what it creates. Before you post or before you share information, you should know it's going to affect your personal brand, right? It's going to affect your name, not only your name, your career, your experience, your expertise, and your area of growth. That is where you stand out, right? That is no under association. Then the final A, that's the fifth A, right? Now we spoke about four A's. Now we're going to talk about the fifth one, the last A. That is basically about appearance, right? Appearance. How are you going to appear? Right? The fifth one is about appearance. So appearance, how you look, is that what I mean? Yes or no? How
Yes, sir.
correct. One is how you look, and second thing is how you are going to present yourself on social media, right? So today we are talking about personal branding. So the next session is basically going to be how you're going to use your social media professionally. So I'm just giving you all tips now, but we'll talk about it basically a lot on the next session. So personal branding is basically meant on these five ways, the three pillars of branding, and then the elements of personal branding. So basically, when you talk about appearance, it not only involves your grooming or how you look, it also look how you present yourself, right? Online, right? How you present yourself on social media, right? Your name and what statistics that you share on social media and what makes you stand out and what kind of images or posts or whatever you name it, right? What are you going to share? All those things will be associated all these five A's that I told you now, right? The first thing is the authenticity. Second is about the audience, right? The third thing is about the authority that you're going to have. Fourth is about association. And fifth is about the appearance, right? So you have the five A's lined up in what and how you're going to develop and how you're going to groom yourself as a personal brand, right? So you have seen people, right? You are moving with people. Sometimes you look at people, you tend to look up at them, and you see, my goodness, this guy is like, he wears very neatly, and he's very smart. Sometimes you look at these young girls, you can see how smart and professional they are dressed up, right? They are very young, but when you look at them, you can look up to them, right? You learn how they match their colors, or maybe how they match their suits, right? The shoe, the bags, or maybe the wristwatch, maybe the phone, right? Everything, you name it, right? So that is where you look up as a personal brand. But it's not only that, it's how you present yourself, right? What value you give out from yourself, you create that, right? It all depends on you. Nobody's going to come behind you and say you have to do this, you have to do that. No, you have to do your self learning, right? You have to coach yourself, right? If you're going to make people look at you, make people come to you, and make people get advice from you, you have to be that personal brand. You have to create that impact in people's mind and people's lives as well, right? So if I'll give you a good example, right? For under personal brand, I give a good example. Have you heard about this guy here? Hmm? This guy here, Chef Chariten Silva, right? He's known as the wild cook, right? This guy, he started in 2020, right? Look at the guy, look at the image that I shared here, right? Though his hair looks a bit messy, the guy looks smart, isn't he? Yes or no?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he does. He does look smart.
he looks smart. See, he has
Yes.
matched his suit, right? He's wearing a black shirt, the black trousers, and the belt is also black with a nice branded belt, right? He's wearing a branded belt, right? So this guy, I'm telling you, right? During COVID, I used to follow this guy, right? So he was a guy who used to just create content. Nobody, cared or bothered, looking at this guy. They just okay, he's just making some food. He's just enjoying by a riverside, by a stream with a clay pot, That's how he started, right? So this guy is actually a personal brand, you know. He created that from 2020. Today we are in 2025, right? It just took him 4 years, right? Just 4 to 5 years, he had made his personal brand. Everybody knows him as the wild cook. Nobody calls him Charit, no? Am I right or wrong? Yes, everybody talks about Wild Cook. Did you look at Wild Cook? Did you look at this? Did you see his blog? Did you see his YouTube video? Right? He has a unique way of creating videos, right? The way he cuts even the fruits, the vegetables, or you name it, right? The way he mixes things, everything is unique, right? You don't see that with everyone. That is how you build yourself. That's why I just shared you all this example. This guy launched it in 2020 called the Wild Cookbook. He started off with an Instagram page, right? And he has an Instagram page as well, right? So people who have not followed this guy, you all can just go through and get an idea, right? How you can build your personal brand, right? And then see, today he has reached 10 million subscribers, right? Becoming the first Sri Lankan channel to achieve this milestone and also receiving the diamond play button, right? So he's the first guy to have this play button in Sri Lanka, right? So just imagine his effort and what came under him, what was behind him, his motivation, right? He didn't use anything else. He only used this. He used the physical appearance, right? He was physical. In every video, he doesn't hide his face, right? He's physical. He shows himself. He walks, throwing the fruit up, coming down with the knife. He chops the fruit. He shows how he does it, right? It's how you present yourself, right? Second thing is he built his skill, right? Every video, see how he cuts the fruit. Earlier, when he started, he used to cut it with bare fingers, right? He doesn't wear a glove, but today, see, he wears the glove. He's very professional, right? So he has built his abilities also. So he has practiced the physical appearance. Second one is he has practiced the area skills and abilities. Third thing, he has practiced the communication style. Am I right or wrong?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't talk, right? He doesn't talk or he doesn't say a word, right? He only does everything by action, right? So he knew the behavior of communicating, right? He only smiles, he cooks, and then he shows how delicate and how tasty his food is, right? So people tend to do it because the way he presents himself, the behavior of his communication style. And then see the second thing, he had mastered in his skill. Then he built his competency. Third, he has the experience. Fourth, he's now an expert. Today he has a restaurant called the Wild Dish, right? So why is that? That is all because of his brand, his personal brand. He built his name, he built his personal brand, and today what? He has his own brand, right? The Wild Dish. And two, he knows the target audience. He has a very young crowd, and he has captured the middle-aged people and also the elderly people as well. When you just if you get a time to visit Sri Lanka, or maybe people who are living in Sri Lanka, right? To get a chance, you don't miss this restaurant. Just make a visit and just walk down and just see who are visiting these areas, right? You follow the channels and see how many young people are there and how many middle-aged people are there. You check that and tell me the next session when I connect with you, right? And third thing is he has differentiated himself, right? That is his unique point of making people follow him. The way he cuts or maybe the way he presents his cooking style, right? That is what calls differentiation on personal branding, right? So this guy has featured over 600 videos and amassed more than 4 billion viewers, right? So I'm out of that 4 billion, I'm also one, right? I don't know how many of you guys are here following this guy, but you have to follow him to learn things, right? How to manage your personal brand. I will share more information about some other people next time when I connect. But he's a very good example on personal branding. It just took him only 4 years. And from 2020, today is 2025. We are in 2025 in July. But he has reached 10 million subscribers, that which no one can do in that 4 years, right? And also he has just see he's the only guy who has received the diamond play button also. That's the best part, right? As an individual, not as a team. So he's a standout from everyone. He's a good example, right? So that is where you have to learn. And the key aspects to build yourself. This is where you have to learn now, right? If you are still working on it, you have to build on this, right? You have to first thing is you have to build trust. You have to be a person who is building trust. That means you have to build a network. That is what Charit did, right? He only built a network. What did he do? He just started, he created a YouTube page. He started posting videos. That's it. He didn't bother who is going to watch it, right? He just wanted people to see. That's it. He didn't want whether it's a young crowd or maybe it's a middle-aged person or an elderly person. No. He only wanted to build a network. Then he created the communication path. Then he came up with his Instagram page. Then, he put up so many things, reels to images to whatever you name it, right? He customized his profile, whereas he is using it professionally. Then the third thing is you have to differentiate yourself, your skill and your uniqueness, right? He didn't go as Charit N. Silva. What did he do? He went as the wild cook, right? Because he was always seen with the jungle, the background was with the river background. The guy used to be under a tree or something cooking, right? So his uniqueness is that he differentiated himself from the rest of the people, the young crowd who is, with all these chef hats and, the apron, all these things. No, he was a differentiated guy, right? Fourth thing is long-term sustainability. That is grooming and learning and development. Now see, this guy has groomed himself. When you look at him ages back, he was just with a arm cut. In his videos, he used to sit near a river or the river bank on a stone with an arm cut with a pair of shorts. And that's how he was. But today, just see the guy, how he's groomed. He wears branded t-shirts. He's learning and developing his skill, right? Whereas he has his own restaurant with chefs working under him, right? And that is what calls you on long-term sustainability. You have built your brand based on all these four aspects. One is building a trust, you build a network, you create communication, and then fourth is you differentiate your skill and your uniqueness, right? And the fourth thing is long-term sustainability, whereas you can sustain in the society, you keep your brand going on, your personal brand. When people look to you, they will look up to you, right? you should know the difference. When they look to you, they will look up to you. That is your personal brand. Maybe it's your name, right? So sometimes when people look at maybe Umar, right? People should know what specialty he has. Maybe for his kindness, right? That is also a personal brand, right? Sometimes people are good in knowing Ali because Ali is good in speaking up, right? He has no stage fear, right? When I asked the first question, he's the guy who first answered, right? So that is something good, right? You should build that. You should be fearless and you should be smart and you should always know your network. That is what builds your personal brand. If you are to grow and if you are to link up with people, you have to be unique and you have to give the exact fact that you are talking about. You have to be true to it. So if you are not true to it, you're going to ruin your brand. Right? People will say, no, this guy is no, he just says, he says whatever it comes to him. No, it's not that. You have to be unique, right? Because remember, personal brand is your name and your career. What you create is what echoes around you, right? Always remember that. What you create always echoes around you, right? So that is your personal brand, right? So always remember the 5 ways that you have, and always remember the three key elements, and don't forget to follow these 4 areas in whatever you do, right? That is what in another 10 years time down the line we'll see where you have grown from what you have been, right? So for an example, I was also like you guys, right? I join sessions or maybe trainings, I take down notes, and I learn. But apart from that, I do my research. If I see something, if it's a brand or whatever it is, you have to learn it. You have to follow it. You have to live with it, right? If you are to groom yourself as a personal brand, you have to live with that dream. If you don't, you will not go to that target, or maybe you will not climb that ladder that you are planning to climb. Okay. So I hope you understood basically all of this, right? So if you have any questions, right, you are free to ask now. And as what I told you all, maybe the next session we will talk about how you are going to apply your personal brand and how you are going to use it professionally on social media. So we'll discuss that on the next session, right? Over to you, Zumaira. Thank you.
Participants have any questions? It's your time to ask your questions. It's like they don't have any questions, so we can wrap up the session. Thanks so much, sir, for the valuable and thought-provoking session. And your tips and the strategies on building professional brand to social media were incredibly relevant. And you have got such an incredible example to show up how it practically works. And we know our participants are walking away with tools they can start right now. On behalf of IYAP and our all youth participants, we sincerely appreciate your time and attention. Before we wrap up, let's take a group photo to mark the end of the today's session. So if you are able to turn on your cameras, please turn on your cameras now. Let's see all of your so, before that, we have a question from Alisuna Ahmadi. Um,
Yes, sir. I will answer your question. So basically, which social media platforms are most effective for personal branding? Yes, I will say you can use LinkedIn, right? So you have to post only your professional achievements, right? You don't have to post anything related to your family, your personal things, never post anything, right? LinkedIn is only about related to your career growth, right? Maybe if you find any findings, right? Or maybe say you learn about any articles or you come up with anything, right? So this you can talk about, right? You can share your ideas, your thoughts. This is your platform, right? LinkedIn. So if you're going to, maybe you can start your Instagram page as well, right? So those two, yes. Rather than Facebook, I would suggest LinkedIn and Instagram, because the crowd today, they are basically using the Gen Z, right? So basically they are all using what? Instagram and LinkedIn. It's very hard to find them on Facebook, right? So this is basically your answer, Ali.
It's clear. Let's wrap up the session. So let's say cheers to the one, two, thank you everyone for joining this session, and don't forget to attend the remaining sessions in order to verify your certificate, and keep an eye on our next exciting topic. So thank you again, and see you all next week for the end of another powerful session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good evening. Thank you for everything.